So just recently, the Sacramento Kings conducted a players-only meeting to discuss the fact that they're currently 1-7 on the season, and me being the Celtics fan that I am, immediately heard this and said, it's one step closer to DeMarcus Cousins demanding a trade. And so now we're going to talk about who is the next star NBA player that's going to be traded. And I think you have to start with DeMarcus Cousins. This situation really mirrors the one with Kevin Love when it was in Minnesota. Star player who's been on a bad team for maybe a little too long, and it doesn't help the fact that Sacramento Kings front office has been questionable with Vivek Ranadive and just changing of the guard so many times when it comes to people in the front office and the general manager and questionable moves on the floor. When will DeMarcus say enough is enough and just demand a trade? Because Ranadive has already said we're not trading him, so Cousins would have to demand it. At a certain point, it's got to happen. I mean, George Karl definitely didn't help anything out about a few months ago. As far as potential teams, I think my Celtics have a real chance because they have the potential number one pick in the draft from the Brooklyn Nets because of how bad they've been this season, and just a slew of other draft picks. I think the Wizards could use Bradley Beal. I think the Magic could potentially give him Nikola Vucevic. There's options out there. Next, I would say Carmelo Anthony is a possibility from the Knicks. The story has been said a million times. By the time the Knicks are good, Carmelo Anthony will no longer be a star. We've all heard it already. Here's the thing with Melo. He has the no-trade clause, and as a result, he's only going to turn that down if it's to a contender. And of course, the one team everybody talks about is the Chicago Bulls, and it's like, the only thing the Bulls could do is give up like Mirotic, Gibson, McDermott, and Bobby Portis in a first-round pick for him, because the Bulls wouldn't want to butcher themselves. And then at that point, do the Knicks say, it's not really enough? So it's a weird situation, you know? You don't want to give up too much to get Melo to the point where you're not even a contender by the time he's actually on your team. But at the same time, you have to give the Knicks enough to where they'll say yes. So it's a weird situation. I think the next potential star who could be moved, speaking of New York, is Brook Lopez of the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets suck. Okay, they're 0-7 at the moment. It doesn't look like it's going to get any better. I love this, of course, because I'm a Celtics fan and we have their picks. But if you're the Nets, you don't have any of your own picks until, I believe, 2018 or 19. Shout out to Billy King. So as a result, why don't you just trade Brook Lopez and get yourself some picks? Now, of course, he is injury prone, and I don't know who would actually take him on. But if I'm the Nets, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, unless we can hit home runs repeatedly in free agency over the next couple of seasons, I don't see how they can become a quality team until they can get their own picks back. So trade for some damn picks, and Brook Lopez is the guy to do it. Unless someone would be dumb enough to take Joe Johnson, which I wouldn't. And you want to know who I think could actually trade for Brook Lopez and it might work out for him? What about the Indiana Pacers? Because their guard play up to this point in the season has been pretty damn solid, but their big men have been kind of lacking. I mean, they got Jordan Hill starting at center right now. You think Brook Lopez wouldn't improve things? Now, if you're the Nets, your expectations have to drop a little bit, because if you're expecting some team with probably a lottery pick or a top 10 pick to trade for Brook Lopez, it's not going to happen. But if you can get a couple of serviceable teens, maybe 20s draft picks for Lopez, don't you just kind of do it to get yourself in the right direction? Unless you think you're just going to hit home runs in free agency. Another option, weirdly enough, is my Celtics. I could picture them giving up some random first-round pick that they don't need for Brook Lopez and basically taking a flyer on him. Another option could be the Dallas Mavericks, just because they need something at center, although Dirk Nowitzki and Brook Lopez together would probably be the worst defensive front court in the league, but they're just options, man. And the last name that I could think of is Zach Randolph, because currently the Memphis Grizzlies are 3-5, and I've already said that their championship window has closed, but perhaps it could be reopened with a bit of a culture change. Trading away Zach Randolph and acquiring someone who is more athletic, someone who could potentially stretch the floor, give them a small ball 4 option, perhaps acquire a shooter or two in the deal. That's the type of thing that the Memphis Grizzlies need to do right now, because luckily for them, they still have the great foundation of Mike Conley and Marc Gasol. You trade Zach Randolph away, you get more athletic, you become a better shooting team. That's what the Memphis Grizzlies need to do. And Zach Randolph, he's 34, so the only team you could trade him to would be a contender, but he's still decent. He's still putting up about 16 and 8 this season, so it's an idea. So that's going to do it. If you have any trade ideas or something in your brain, let it be known. Shout out to Derrick Rose. Shout out to Emmanuel Mudiay. Somebody better trade for Wilson Chandler, by the way. OKC, get on that. And I'm done.